Okay, we're live.
Hello, everyone.
Hi. They just disappear, right?
Yeah, where did everyone go?
I don't know. They just went out of the meeting. I don't know.
Yeah. Where are you speaking from?
I don't know what happened.
Okay.
That's in the back.
Great.
Live, no? Okay.
Hello.
Hey, you're back. Hi.
Oh, I love technology. Welcome to our event, our lecture today with Ibiye Camp and Andu. We had a first day of a workshop we called Unmaking the City, and so we are looking at the practice of subtraction as a possible way to intervene in the city. And as part of the program, we invited two guests to share their work with us and also make the lecture public so we can reach our friends, our public, our well, the people who want to learn from the program and so on. And I will do a very short introduction to our guests, and then we let both present their work to us, and later we could ask some questions and interact a little bit with you both. I'm particularly happy to join together here Andu and Ibiye, because in different places, in different contexts, I met both in 2019. We met in Oslo at the Architecture Triennale, and we hosted you for a very short residency, very intense and interesting time here in Porto, during the Porto Design Biennale. And we thought your work could inspire our workshop and the stuff we are about to do. You know? Andu is a collective based in Madrid. Their work shows that it's possible to practice architecture not by building, but by not doing or redoing or undoing. These actions that could actually be viable ways to intervene in our cities and our lives. Their work is based on criticism, debate, reflection through various practices and actions, often based on participation and multidisciplinary processes. Ibiye Camp is a multidisciplinary artist. She has also an MA in architecture from the Royal College of Art, where she currently teaches. Her work forms an investigation into post-colonial subjects, technology, and the built environment. She uses architectural tools to create video installations, artifacts, sound installations in various contexts, such as London, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Ethiopia. And her investigations highlight the biases and conflicts, and using tools of architecture to constantly question the disconnect between technology and the reality of our concrete world. I guess we will see more clearly what we do in our presentations. Looking forward to it. Thank you to both. And yes, please, Alejandro.
Yeah, so yeah, thanks a lot for the introduction, and also thanks a lot for the invitation. It's a pleasure for us to be being here with you, like sharing what we do or what we don't do. I don't know. And as you mentioned, we met in Oslo Triennale, which was an amazing opportunity to also see like how different people and offices around the world are just trying to look at architecture in a different way. So, I mean, I have a presentation to share with you. So let me please go ahead. And just a second. Okay, can you see it well?
Yes.
Yep. All right. So, yeah, basically, I mean, what we believe and we have observed is that we transform the world that transforms us, and we can experience this every day. Like, I mean, and this transformation is not always good. We have to say, like, we have contamination. We're building like deserts. We consume territory. I mean, tourism also. It's kind of parasiting our cities, and all this means that we also generate waste at all levels. But especially in Europe, the European Union, construction is generating around 40% of the waste. And of course, this waste is just going to many places around the world. Not even it's just kind of spinning around the planet. So we believe that today's problems can be those challenges for the future, and as in this picture, we can see problems, we can see opportunities. So we would like to say that those problems can be turned into opportunities, looking at sustainability, health, equity, mobility, inclusion, whatever. And then this is looking at these opportunities. We can ask ourselves this question: how would the cities of the future be? And again, when we ask this question, we see and we have seen that still the song remains the same. I mean, like Google still gives us the same answers, like greenery, green facades. I mean, like green 3Ds. But we believe it's not about building the cities of the future and thinking the cities from scratch and how our ideal and paradigmatic city will be. But we need to build future for our cities, and in that sense, trying to at least go towards the sustainable development goals, which are not very good, but still, but at least they're kind of mark a line. So we believe that we need to work in the cities we already have, and forgetting the assumption that we are what we do, which is something very structuralist and architectural, because above all, I mean, we are basically where we don't do anything, and when we are in pure sense. So this means that we can do more and better with even nothing, And of course, this idea, it's not something new. We have seen that in music, in art many times, and even in land art, and that's why we decided that our focus in architecture will be on how we can work in the cities we have and build the future for our cities with just undoing, as you mentioned, redoing or doing nothing. Basically building from subtraction. And this is how Undo appeared, like I think 10 years ago, as a think tank, as an urban experimentation center. And first of all, developing, of course, a manifesto, then through writings on this book, From Subtraction, that kind of condenses our thoughts around cities and territory. And also in this kind of theoretical part, developing workshops like the one we did in Lanzarote, and publishing again books like this atlas, which was the result of the different views from the participants of that workshop. Also, giving lectures and teaching, but also turning those ideas, which we believe is really important, to turn ideas into concrete proposals through a technical office. And of course, we believe, first of all, the first thing we need to have is an idea. We need to think, and then we need to turn that into concrete things, right? So in the technical office, in this 10 years, more than 150 people has worked with us, has collaborated with us from different disciplines. And all this work has been towards not sustainability, but real sustainability or a strong sustainability. Basically focusing first on the environmental aspects, then the social, cultural, and at last, economical. And I think that's important, because normally when we talk about, or when sustainability, the word sustainability has lose a bit its meaning. So it has to be environmental sustainability, and then social, cultural, and then economically. So of course, another approach and another methodology needs different materials. And our materials are uncertainty, persistence, flexibility, and time. Uncertainty, unfortunately, has become very popular with COVID, but we still believe that, and this is not new, we're in a liquid society, so it's not very clear, what's going to happen, in the following months. But still, we have this cities, the persistence, and we need to be flexible enough to work with the uncertainty. And of course, we have to incorporate time in that equation. So that's why we normally think our projects as something essential, which means what we need to do right now, which is important, and something we need to do right now, those actions that we have to do just tomorrow to change things, what is necessary, and of course can happen in the following 2-3 years, and which is desirable, which is the paradigm of utopia. So, looking at that desirable utopic future, then we work in the essential. So again, the question then is not how we do it, which has been what architecture has been about in the past years, but if we have to do it or not, and if it's really essential to do it, or if it's desirable to do it, and that's what we believe should be the basis of the architectural. So then going back to the three ways of working that we have, undoing means to reduce, to minimize, to dismantle, and really to respond effectively to stress. And also that brings us a question, which it's good to, you can think about it afterwards, is what do we need to eliminate to improve our environment? And this is not this is a very complicated question, but if you think of it, with attention, you will find that many things is just deleting things, raising things, or objects, or even, buildings or whatever, really can improve our environment. Redoing is about reusing, revitalizing, regenerating, recovering, but, valuing what we have. And this is also a very important thing, because then we need to think, how can our heritage be more profitable? And we find so many old buildings that are empty and abandoned because we haven't found a way to make them profitable. And that's the thing. And profit comes, or seems to come, with the new. But again, we need to think on how to make those old construction and old cities profitable. Not only looking at the financial aspects, but also environmental, social, and cultural profitable. So we work in what we already have, in the cities we already have. And then do not means, of course, preserving, protecting, and just demonstrating that also not doing can be sustainable and cost effective. And again, the question here will be, what are the benefits of not building? And to try to answer to those three questions, I mean, I have bring some projects we have been implementing in the past years. Some of them may be, I mean, are focusing on the desirable aspect of the intervention. Some are focusing on the essential. Some of them in the three aspects, the three aspects of the system. And but they all work with also the three concepts, right? So I'm doing the first one was a technical report we did all together with Greenpeace for the Algarrobico Hotel, which is a illegal construction in the south of Spain. And basically, I mean, here we will the technical report is looking at how to dismantle the hotel, recover the landscape, and then preserve it also. You know? So that is a hotel, you know, an amazing, pristine beach, but I mean, completely illegal. So so here the focus was on how to do the demolition or the dismantling of the hotel, but looking at 4 components. So basically doing a selective demolition, which means that kind of, you know, tearing down the hotel piece by piece and kind of, you know, managing the waste and recovering and recycling most of the parts of the hotel. I think we reached it around 98%. And then also recovering, you know, the landscape and the beach. But all that was happening with a socio-economical approach, like involving the community, people. I mean, there was a room for, you know, learning, teaching for schools to do some technical practice on how to dismantle a hotel, on materials resistance, a lot of things. So basically, as the project was evolving along the time, we were implementing different activities, all related to these 4 sectors, you know, like the selective demolition and you know, the social component, the recovery. And I mean, as this was happening and was evolving, it took, of course, like 2 years. I mean, which is completely different to like a normal demolition that happens in a couple of days or even in 1 hour if you use explosives. We managed to extend the project as if it was a construction project along 2 years, and then we have all these results, you know, dismantling the environment, managing and recycling the waste, recovery of the environment, and then, you know, looking towards an socio-economical sector, like, you know, dismantling, and also, you know, looking also at awareness and participation of the population, which was the important part of the project. And that was kind of, you know, looking at the final results of recovering the beach. Another one is same thing in another place in the west of Spain. And again, it was kind of dismantling an illegal construction. I won't go through this one because it's just the same concept and the same way of working. Then we also have in Madrid Atocha train station, and this work was commissioned by ADIF, which is like the public organism, kind of, you know, managing like trains and train stations. So here the idea of the project was to value the building. I mean, kind of, you know, I mean, this old building, which is from the 19th century, is, I mean, full of different things that have I mean, the building has lost its personality and its sense, and the idea was to value the building and also its heritage and its presence within the city. So what we did here was to develop not a project but a tool for decision making, and we were looking at 3 things. I mean, so we gave our client like different like a bunch of activities, around 90 activities, which all were focusing on looking at how to, you know, clean the station and just, you know, recovering the old building. And along this 90 actions, I mean, we were looking at priority, implementation time, and cost. So basically, the project plan was like the master plan of the project was this matrix, an Excel file, in which, as you can see, you have like the different activities, and if they are, you know, high priority, short implementation time, and low budget, then was something to go. I mean, there's something that you could do at that specific moment, you know. So this would be essential. And then what is, for example, high priority, but I mean long implementation time, that you could say that was probably not essential but desirable. So with this matrix, I mean, the client was able to decide at what time and when implement different activities. To finally, along the time, just implement the 90 of them, but kind of prioritizing the most important and needed ones. So that was how I mean, like the plan, and the idea was kind of, you know, cleaning the whole station, just deleting like you know, kind of debris and useless elements, and rearranging it as it was before. The same thing, very, very similar with Guadalupe in Spain. I mean, here the idea is how to, I mean, this is World Heritage, the monastery there. And here it was an accessibility plan. The idea was how to balance, you know, local demands with tourism, and you know, what elements that were dedicated to tourism should be, you know, eliminated to enhance, like, you know, like the use of the city by the neighbors, which sometimes were overwhelmed by the tourists coming in, and also how to combine accessibility for both of them. So, I mean, it's not. I would like to focus on, again, we have this diagram of how we were working. So first of all, an analysis and diagnosis. Then there were some proposals. Then we have this tool for decision making. Then implementation, and then the tool allows us to evaluate the different interventions and see if they're working good or bad, and then maybe go back to the analysis and then implement different other proposals that would work towards what we wanted. Well, some examples of and what we did, and then going to the part of not doing. Here I have like three small samples. One of them was in Madrid, looking at there was a competition on how to remodel La Puerta del Sol, which is like the main square of the city, and we believe that that intervention was not needed, that the score was good enough. So for the competition, we developed this QR code, which led you to a beautiful writing that a friend of us, which is anthropologist, made, and that justified why we didn't need to intervene in the square. And also the second panel was this hashtag, which opened a discussion in Twitter for people to participate and, you know, give arguments on whether the intervention was something needed or not. The next one was in the southeast and the northeast of Spain, in Catalonia, in Torroella. And again, this was a kind of activism and art action, reflecting on why that landscape that should not be constructed. This is a place like this is also a beautiful beach, and it's a very I mean, like a place with a very how you say that, biological, you know, interest. And so basically we did an artist action here together with some local artists to put in value that wetland, and to also make visible to the neighbors why I mean, building there was not a very interesting thing. We also have developed congresses. This one we did in 2016 about emptiness, silence, and distraction. And finally, I think I have this project in Kalmar, Sweden. This is an old one, but I mean, it's been developing along the years because it was a European prize we had in 2014, I think. And basically, I mean, the idea here was to conserve and protect the landscape and adding density and complexity and diversity to the neighborhood. So that's Kalmar, Sweden. That's one of the external neighborhoods of the main town, which is in front of that beautiful wetland, and the aim was to build there like around 2,000 houses, which in our point of view would have spoiled that very beautiful picture, and that would be something like that, which of course we didn't want. And so the aim of our proposal was the no construction in the new areas, dismantling some barriers, and the reuse of some of the existing voids in the urban grid. So again, make city and value the landscape. We use this equation, which basically means that the more complexity or diversity you add to the system, the less energy it requires, so more sustainable it is. And again, we said we banned the construction in that place. There was a road where you see road 22 that we decided to eliminate and turn it into a street. So to have slow traffic, that would allow the whole neighborhood to reach very easily the sea, the sea line and the seashore, and also to be able to use that wetland as a public park. And then we densified the existing neighborhood, which was only residential, and we also add some different uses, like I don't know, schools, shops, bars, elderly residences, a mental health center, some sport goods. So basically connecting the old neighborhood with the wetland. And these are some different images. And what we managed here was to give value to all the existing houses, because in case there was some construction very near the coastline, new houses would be more valuable than the old neighborhood. So basically putting everything together and kind of diversifying it and densifying it, all the new houses will have the wetland as a public park, and also their value will rise, so because we have a more attractive neighborhood. Again, and this was clear. Then we were, after the competition, we were developing the master plan together with the municipality, and that was clear for them. The new buildings were more. The new neighborhood was more valuable than the neighborhood they had before, and also they had a new park, which are the wetlands that we have to preserve. So basically, subtraction and not doing are we believe there are relevant and necessary interventions that can generate additional value and profit. And just now to finish, recently we have this international contest, which has gathered like different projects from different places. We had more than 120 proposals, all projects related to basically these three concepts of not doing, undoing, and redoing. And it has been very, very interesting, because it for us it was like a meeting point for urban and territorial solutions, and we have put everything in this map where you can then see, how this approach or these new thoughts and views on architecture are not only are not an isolated thing, but are happening in many places around the world. And that's it. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you very much, Alejandro. So let's move on to Ibiye, please.
Great. Is my sound, can you hear me? Yeah, great. Yeah, Alessandro, that was an amazing presentation. I feel really actually quite inspired from what you just presented just now. So I'm going to be presenting my practice and kind of just talking about kind of 3 or 4 projects which I've worked on since 2019, and I guess I'm going to be speaking more from a artist point of view of how I work with architectural tools, and kind of mainly focusing on the voids within the way that I've been working. I'm an artist based in London. I'm actually speaking to you from Sierra Leone right now, where me and my partner spend part of our time throughout the year. And I kind of orchestrate around architecture research using textiles, film, digital technologies to challenge other forms of spatial representations. And I aim to change how we see the landscape beyond the bounds of Western epistemologies. I use and celebrate techniques such as sound of the West African talking drum, to storytelling, sonic field recordings and performance in order to challenge the use of architectural tools and how we engage in the landscape. I use these analog techniques combined with visual tools in augmented reality, and one of the main techniques I've been using also is photogrammetry. If you don't know, photogrammetry transforms an object in a 2D digital image into a 3D model. It essentially analyzes a real world object or environment to collect data on its appearance, and it then processes it. And I question what is detected and rethink the functionality of the scan. As well as my artwork, I'm also a tutor at the Royal College of Art, as mentioned before. I teach with Dele Adeyemo and Damasa Randolph, and together we run an architecture design studio 2. This year, our studio is titled Black Horizons, Welding Within the Ruins of Racial Capitalism. I guess race and place is very important to me as a subject, being British Nigerian. My practice reflects a dialogue of identity and representation of the African diaspora. My research plays with the idea of modernization and conflicts that come from ideologies in Western technology in contrasting environments. So today I'm going to be speaking about the glitch that happens within technology. And the word the glitch was used by Legacy Russell in Glitch Feminism and Manifesto. Legacy Russell thinks of the glitch as a creative strategy informed by and for queer, trans, non-binary communities of color that are systematically oppressed with white capitalist hetero-patriarchal forces. I think of the glitch as an embodied inequality in how technology works in identifying texture, color, material, and time. Currently, there are the leading artificial intelligence companies in China and North America. So the softwares that are developed are mainly kind of from cis Caucasian men, and they undoubtedly have a huge amount of biases embedded in them, which do not recognize landscapes in the global south. And this creates a technological glitch, such as face recognition, not being able to detect people of color, or even dark, unlit landscapes not being kind of seen in a complete form. And I'm very focused on the word glitch as a technical word, as it kind of expresses a malfunction or something that's going wrong. Whereas rather than seeing the glitch as a negative, I see it as a point of liberation in the void and spaces that are unrecognizable and that can't be seen as having a kind of power in themselves. I believe that technology could be used to liberate non-Western spaces and more than human experiences. So through a couple of the selected works that I'm going to go through today, I'll be discussing the scanning software and the power of low resolution and incompleteness. So this is a kind of example of some of the point cloud scans that I've been kind of working with. So in 2017, me and my partner, we came to Sierra Leone to live for a couple of months. And while we were here, I noted that there were these entrepreneurial kind of gaming centers, which were kind of situated around Freetown and across the city. They are kind of built with a iron kind of frame, and they are called pan bodies. And in these spaces, people gather to watch the Premier League football games and Championship and the Champions League. and the pan bodies are painted with Manchester United, Chelsea, Barcelona kind of football teams. And I found it really interesting that this in particular, how it was like European football games that were played within these spaces. So I began to think about the imperialism and these kind of connotations that come from infrastructure that has been put in place and provided by a Western market. I began looking at submarine cable systems that connect Africa to the rest of the world via Europe. And I found that there's 6 cable systems off the coast of West Africa, and this was called Main 1, and it travels from Amsterdam through to London, then to a landing point in Lagos, Nigeria. And the landing point in Nigeria then provides West Africa with most of their internet supply. The undersea fiber optic cable systems trace back a legacy of imperialism and trading routes. A quote from James Bridle reads that imperialism didn't stop with decolonization, it just moved up at infrastructure level. So this was the kind of inspiration for my MA project, which was titled Data the New Black Gold. The project examines the data economy in West Africa and tracing history of oil production in Nigeria and the complex relations between exploitation, wealth, and the environment. So Lagos is one of the kind of main digital economies in Africa and the main one in West Africa. And when I was there in 2019, I traveled to Yaba, which is, it has a nickname, and the nickname is Yabacon Valley, which is a play on Silicon Valley, as you can buy any type of like computer, laptop, iPhone, tablet, you can buy all sorts of technology there. And this is the location where I bought a SIM card, and I also like kind of topped up some credit. And smartphones, you should know, that are very kind of like available in West Africa now and very accessible and affordable for individuals. And so with this idea of rethinking how people could collect data from the public spaces and kind of in kind of non kind of Google map formations, I designed kind of handheld devices that people could then use to scan. And the typologies of the handheld devices kind of mimicked the way that people in the markets would kind of move around. So a lot of the handheld devices had wheels on them, like wheelbarrows. And this is how people would move through Balogun markets and Yaba market to kind of transport goods. So the markets in Lagos are extremely busy, with hundreds of people moving through them every day. And so when scanning in the markets, it exposed these heterogeneous qualities of the space and showed kind of different types of behaviors in the scans. And as you can see here, that there is a lot of movement at the bottom of the scan, which shows kind of a voided area that can't quite be seen, whereas the advertisement at the top of the scan is kind of more clearly kind of seen. And in this practice that I created with these handheld devices, it became clear that there was a restricted form of these types of different typologies. Collecting a number of these scans exposed modes that are not kind of globally efficient, and there was almost a material resistance of these spaces which have a lot of movement. It created kind of like a ghost-like mesh in this example here. If for those of you that might have used photogrammetry is notoriously difficult when scanning spaces with high contrasted light or intense shadows, and also kind of you can see that when I take it to the next step of this mesh, it starts to erase certain details. So where there was an umbrella and someone standing behind the stall, because of the movement, the person then, their body then kind of disappears. So there's a type of resistance to being scanned when you're in such a kind of busy environment. I also kind of think that I encourage myself to kind of render in the lowest formats possible. This is to save time and energy, but also to kind of think about low resolution imagery. And I feel like there is a different value to a low resolution image. I feel like poor images tend to be abstracted, and there is an idea that resolution can see more than what we can see as people. When you have a JPEG that has been appropriated many, many times, the resolution kind of depreciates. And this kind of starts to hold more information than the original image because of its history. So therefore, this is a couple more images of the scans of Lagos and Freetown that I produced. And as you can see, there is like green behind the voids, and this is to emphasize the voids within the scans. And I believe that the glitch of the moving landscapes then exposes space to rethink order and the space on the sites, kind of show an embedded kind of misunderstanding of designing for kind of busier spaces or unlit spaces, whereas photogrammetry scans are usually used on concrete structures or in kind of cathedrals or sculptures that are kind of lit in a particular way. So I want to show my film now, which is just going to be about 5 minutes long, but hopefully it will kind of take you into the journey of the glitched digital city, which was accumulated. So I'll play the video now. So that was my film, Data for New Black Gold, and I'll continue to kind of go on with more recent projects that I've been working with as well. So back in 2020, when we were all isolated in our various kind of homes because of the pandemic, I decided to revisit a project I've been working on in East Street Market. So East Street Market is my local market back in London, and this is a very exciting, busy space. And previously I had gone through the market and with a similar type of exercise that I did in Lagos of scanning kind of particular market stalls and seeing what was picked up with all the moving kind of people and different contrasting lighting and reflective surfaces within the market space. And as you can see, the markets are kind of spaces where every day people would be pulling their stalls up and down and setting up shop and everything. And obviously during the pandemic, this wasn't happening. And so I decided to create an exercise of placing back the market stalls, which I scanned previously in 2019. Using augmented reality, I imposed the markets back into an empty street where the markets no longer kind of were running. So here are a couple of the videos of this augmented reality exercise. This is during the period of time where we were allowed to go out on our kind of exercise, kind of walking, everyday kind of walks. But it was quite interesting to show what kind of a past and a present situation in one space. And I think that's one of the exciting things with photogrammetry and with working in a hybrid sense, is that you can kind of bring different time and places into one another. And particularly in the videos where you can see, you can kind of look between the voids and it's kind of shows this empty space. And then I also continued this type of exercise in Freetown and in Accra, of using the meshes and the video work in order to kind of show an essence of life without kind of completely giving away what it was happening in the landscape. And here I had also scanned some of the waste that was in Osu Beach in Lagos, and I was trying to think about how we can start to remove this type of details of waste from the landscape. And then this is a recent project which was developed from conversations with Limbo Accra, who look into the abandoned concrete structures which are kind of all across West Africa due to kind of projects not being profitable anymore, or ground kind of safety regulations not being followed. This is Labadi Beach, which has La Beach Tower, which is kind of an example of these urban kind of abandoned spaces within Accra. And this was a scan which I had taken of the 17-story building, which kind of towers over the landscape. And I guess this, at the moment, we're thinking about creating a type of digital archive of these spaces which aren't really possible to be accessed and also aren't able to be dismantled due to cost. And so this is a working project which I'm doing between Accra and Freetown at the moment. And the idea is to then kind of create a digital archive of some sort of these abandoned spaces. Yes, so that's everything that I have to show on my collection of scans and voids for the moment. But thank you for listening.
Great, thank you, Ibiye. Fantastic thoughts. Thank you very much, both of you. Yes, we will have a short conversation if you have some more experience. And we organize the workshop together with Tiago, who is here, and Tiago would like to give some comments about the presentations.
Sure. Hi again. Thanks so much for the presentations. They were like really inspiring. And what I really liked, I think they really provide us with like really strategies and tactics, be them political, aesthetical, procedural, really to disrupt kind of, the business as usual procedures in our cities. And I think that's something what we're trying to do here as well. So it's quite really inspiring. But I wanted to add that actually something which seemed to be kind of a common point between the two presentations. It's kind of a different sense of temporality, I'll argue. I feel like in Alessandro's presentation, there's this idea of like trying to kind of in your projects, in those projects actually, have trying to employ a different kind of temporality. And I just wanted to ask, how do you do so? Because it kind of seemed like quite long projects. And I was wondering, what kind of forums do you mobilize to kind of practice these different temporalities? Be it the project, is it a museum, is it an art project? So I've kind of been thinking a little bit about that. And on the case of EPs, I think it's kind of the other way around, which is quite exciting. Like, as you were saying, EB, the idea of like what's moving fast, it's what is resistant to surveillance, which was quite interesting to me. And also because the work is like heavily mediated, I was just wondering how it circulates across, so many places. It made me think immediately of that piece by Ito Starr, I think in defense of the poor image, and she says like from resolution to movement, and what you're saying like all these pieces in say Sierra Leone being shown in London and elsewhere. So I'm just wondering how this temporality and movement seem to be kind of points in common. I wonder if you could like expand a little bit on that.
Should I go first? Or,
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think temporality is very interesting because obviously there is a uniqueness to scanning because it's kind of impossible to scan something and then it be exactly the same another time. And so with the way that I've been working, it's almost, well, obviously it's modern photography, kind of photogrammetry, and so it's kind of like a snapshot of that moment. So a bit like the data that was collected in 2019 in East Street Market in London was then kind of a new kind of was then used in another context in 2020, and it showed already the huge difference between the two situations. And I also think I don't know if again there might be like I think I'm gradually working towards maybe a sort of database of some sort of scans over time, but also thinking about appropriation between kind of scannings and how kind of like Ito still talks about the low resolution being a kind of log of history, the kind of more a meme is shared, low resolution it holds. And I'm very interested as well in how low resolution imagery or a very voided scan sees more than what the human eye can see. So we look for kind of a completeness in the photograph or a completeness in the scan but then what the document, what the JPEG is telling us is that it's gotten through these huge amount of stages in order to be such low resolution. So I think the idea of temporality is a very key thing, which I'm also still trying to grapple with what to do with that information. I don't know if that answers your question.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, so in our case, well, I mean, I found really interesting, I mean, Ibiye's presentation and of course the video, I mean, and I think that video shows clearly what a city is. I mean, it's interaction, it's noise, it's people. And so in our case, we came, I mean, working with time or temporality, because, I mean, architecture was just the opposite. I mean, architecture, as we normally understand it, is understood in the academy, if you allow me to use the word, is just opposite to what Ibiye was showing. I mean, it's completely opposite. So we started to work with time because we thought architecture was at some point, I mean, just focusing only on the object, you know, objects which are kind of freeze images of things, you know, are something that you can play with, but are not really, I mean, in many cases are not really telling anything about people's life. And so we realized that, I mean, and in a good project, or you should have, of course, this idea of this paradigm, you know, which is what we call the desirable, that the project will be useful for people. And there's something that will happen in the future. I mean, that's your ideal goal. But at the same time, our cities, and that's why I was mentioning, we don't like to look at this kind of new things that happen from scratch. At the same time, the cities we live, I mean, they have many kind of layers and many kind of, you know, kind of problems, challenges, opportunities, and that need to be, you know, kind of tackled just immediately and with very kind of immediate actions. And so that's and again, of course, we are living in a scenario which is kind of changing constantly, you know, and new things happen, everything changes. It seems to be everything seems to be very liquid and volatile. So so basically, even if we talk about like 3 temporal, you know, setups, like we normally like to work with the immediate things, immediate needs, immediate solutions. And then also look at this kind of paradigm, which I mean, we believe that if you change the paradigm, maybe we change the world. And we're in a time that of course, we need to change the way we are kind of interacting with the planet. You know? And so for us, I think was something very natural to enter in this kind of, you know, time or tempo as a material for architecture.
Wonderful, thanks, Alejandro. I have more questions, but I was just wondering if we have any other questions in the room or on the digital room. I can ask something else if I might. I have a bit of a question, which is kind of a provocation to Alejandro as well, because I was just wondering, you did something which I found quite interesting, which is on the one hand, you kind of offer a new lexicon with like undoing, not doing, and redoing, and on the other hand, you kind of use very familiar words such as sustainability. And my question, I mean, as you know, probably better than myself, sustainability comes from this, you know, the Brooklyn Report, from the Norwegian, led by the Norwegian Prime Minister. Then, of course, Norway has like this long tradition of like being sustainable so that one can continue to grow and extract, first in oil, now in deep sea mining. So I was just wondering how you kind of come to terms with like these very strong ideas of like not doing, doing, etc., and yet using a lexicon which is often connected with ideas of growth. If that makes sense.
I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, that's, I mean, what you mentioned is 100% fair, but that's what we have, I mean, added that surname to sustainability, which is real or strong sustainability, which is not our invention, but it's something that, I mean, like the community is also using, because of course, this word has been turned into you know, an excuse, or I mean, the argument for doing anything. I mean, you can still, you know, contaminate, but being sustainable, because I mean, you're buying quotes for some, you know, low-income country somewhere in the world. So I think it's a tricky thing. I mean, we believe in, I mean, sustainability is the only solution for, I mean, like, you know, like the climatic problem we have. But I think we have to fight to give it, I mean, give sustainability back its meaning, you know, it's which is it's very clear, you know, we cannot extract more than we consume, or we can contaminate. And but I mean, it's a very fair question, because it's the thing is that we haven't found anything better than sustainability, you know. So that's a problem. But also, and it's very, and now we may enter in a political debate, which is probably not very useful, but it's about how the system we live in just kind of parasites everything, you know, and turns everything upside down, you know. And a word or a concept, which is probably, like, as I was saying, like the only maybe kind of solution, a way out of the climatic, you know, crisis we have. It's been turned, as you mentioned, by countries as you know, I don't know, countries like, you know, developed. It's Norway, you know, and you know, maybe inside out, and it has a completely different meaning, and it's an excuse to do whatever they want. So, I mean, if you find a better word than sustainability, please just let us know, and we will change it.
But, thanks so much, Alejandro. Now, I really appreciate the kind of the tension between the two dimensions. But if I may very humbly suggest, I'm interested in the ideas of like social and environmental justice as one thing. So I'll go for justice, but that's just my very humble input.
But no. I mean, but you're right, and maybe it's just this problem of that. You know, I mean, architecture has been turned into you know, something which is financial, it's just economical, and that's why we're suffering this. I mean, like terrible sprawl and, you know, terrible neighborhoods. Like then again, you know, environmental is been turned into financial. You know, urban development is not looking at how people can improve their life, but, you know, again, financial development and you know, and economic Reddit. So that, I think it's that's the problem, you know, like money, yes, you know, kind of crashes into everything and just kind of, you know, devorates everything, and you know, it's difficult to deal with that.
Thanks so much.
Maybe I can ask a question. I was curious to know in your practice, if you are addressing also spatial installations, in the sense of like building a room or space with your research, through your practice. I mean, you work with video, you work with 3D artifacts at this scale, kind of, but are you interested to build a livable or inhabitable room?
I'm not so interested in do you mean like building architecture?
Yes.
Yeah. I'm not so interested in kind of building, if I'm honest. I'm quite interested in I guess I use architecture or like designing a space in the digital realm, partly because of my interest in like Afrofuturism. I'm quite interested in how we can like rethink the way our world is, with kind of manipulating a digital world and maybe creating sort of like hybrid imaginaries. So, you know, if I'm honest, I myself, I'm not the best architectural kind of structural designer, but I believe that there are kind of ways of rethinking space and renegotiating space with a hybrid intervention of some sort. So some of the work that I've done in the past has been using image targets in order to activate augmented reality. And so that is kind of almost like scanning real world spaces and then using the augmented reality in order to kind of bring out a different type of reality into that space. So with my installations I've created, I more kind of show my ideas and concepts and research in galleries. I haven't quite figured out where my use is yet in kind of actually building space. But yeah, I think I'm operating now in more of a digital sense and archiving and rethinking existing symbolism in architecture or general kind of imagery, and trying to imagine a different type of future out of that. So one of the things that we actually did with Marina Otero and is at the Porto Design Biennale is that we were thinking of renegotiating the Scramble for Africa, which was the Berlin conference. And so we had all of these kind of colonial objects, which we then kind of augmented, and in order to think about what if it was like the Scramble for Europe rather than the Scramble for Africa. So we had this kind of other dimension of what would have been, what would the discussions have been if it had been on the other way rather than kind of splitting up Africa, or is Africa splitting up Europe. So I kind of like to use my architecture skills in order to imagine these other dimensions rather than kind of working in designing new types of rooms or spaces. But I'm very interested in it. I don't know where my work applies in that space yet, but maybe one day.
Good. Thank you. Yes, just perhaps a quick question to Alejandro about the student competition you organized. Could you tell us how it's, because I thought it was such a good way to approach the subject through competition. I suppose it's an open competition, and it's a way to gather and learn from people who otherwise you wouldn't be able to grasp or to get hold of. So can you tell us a little bit about how the idea emerged and what results happened? And I was curious to know a little bit more about the competition process.
Yeah. The idea. I mean, it's when we started to, of course, before we did do and we have this approach, we worked as architects. I mean, like in, let's say, like the typical offices, and when we started, I mean, we also started some teaching at university. We're giving some lectures at some architectural chambers, and we had the feeling that we were a bit, like kind of, I don't know if the word is alone, but like kind of outsiders or something like that. So we started to investigate and research about, looking at people who was or like similar practices. And so in 2016, the first Congress we organized, we did it as a way, as you were mentioning, to gather, I mean, to know about what people was doing and see whether there was people around doing like, having similar approaches. And we were very surprised. I mean, not because we believed that we were very original, but normally because, I mean, you also don't have kind of the, the streaming that normal offices have, you don't have the media talking about new practices and things like that. So, and then in 2016, we found that there was a lot of people in the Congress, like also working with, that was an interdisciplinary thing. So there were a lot of people working with silence, with emptiness, with from different practices, and we were very, very. I mean, it was really great. I mean, and the Congress really was a platform for people to meet and exchange practices and knowledges, and it was really interesting. So then we decided, I mean, there was something, this competition was something that should have happened together with the Congress in 2020. But again, you know, like isolation just kind of, you know, put it in standby, because we also believe, like, I mean, like, you know, digital meetings are great, but I mean, like physical meetings are even better. So, so the Congress, it's been kind of, you know, delayed and probably will be happening next year. But at the end, we managed to run the competition, which finished like kind of like a month ago, I think, or like a couple of weeks ago. And the idea was, in this case, to find and gather architectural practices that were working with like these concepts. And it was an open competition with kind of first and second and third prize. And what we asked was people to present, you know, projects. I mean, students basically projects that they had already developed. I mean, so we didn't want people to work for the competition, but just to present, you know, works they had. And the idea, of course, is just not only like competition per se, but to also, I mean, use the competition as a meeting point for everyone to know what other people is doing, to gather ideas from here and there, to see, I mean, that there's a big community like rethinking architecture, and everything it's I mean, it's been kind of loaded into an interactive map. And we have many proposals from very different places in the world, and it's been really interesting. Very interesting proposals and stuff. So very happy about that.
Let me see if anyone else wants to ask a question or comment. Shall we wrap it? Okay. Let's say bye then. Thank you very much.
Great.
It was, at least I feel it was very inspiring and intense, and I'm sure we will have lots of ideas to work with from coming from your presentations, and we will share the work we did with you later if you want. And let's see. Let's say bye.
Great. Thank you so much.
Bye bye. Thank you so